It's not just about the exercises you do, but when you do them. It also helps you standardize your sets, which people don't talk about enough. This is a more objective metric, although most people get it completely wrong. Welcome back, let's start off where we left off. Next up is intensity. As you imagine, that's how hard you're working. Determines how much stress is placed on the muscles as well as the nervous system. So how do we gauge intensity? One of the main metrics is RPE, the rate of perceived exertion. It's a more subjective metric, but it basically involves you self-evaluating, thinking, did I push myself to a 9, to an 8, or was I not really going as hard? Another metric is RIR, reps in reserve. This is a more objective metric, although most people get it completely wrong. It's how many reps you have left before achieving muscular failure. It's how far you are away from not being able to lift the bar on a bench, for example. If the intensity is too low, the muscle's not going to grow because it's not under enough stress. However, if the intensity is too high, it can lead to burnout, mental fatigue, as well as physical. On top of that, form breakdown. If you're completely fatigued and you're pushing yourself as hard as you can, your form might be terrible and you're just risking needless injury. So the ideal is somewhere between the two extremes. However, most people can go so much further than they actually believe. They can do way more reps than they think, and they're further away from muscular failure than they actually believe. That's why for the vast majority of people, I'd recommend just upping the intensity no matter what. As long as you keep in good form, as well as keeping all these other metrics in place, training harder 99% of the time for 99% of people is what's going to get them more gains. So tied in with volume, frequency, what is it? It's the number of training sessions you have per week, in total and per muscle group. For most muscle groups, training them 2 to 3 times per week is what's optimal for recovery. As well as that, not training the same muscle group 2 days in a row is usually recommended, as most muscles can't recover that fast. This is why frequency is heavily tied to what workout split you're doing. If you're doing an upper-lower split as compared to a push-pull leg split, you can be hitting your lower body far more in the upper-lower split than you would in the push-pull leg split for the same amount of days. Because half of the time you're exercising your lower body, as opposed to a push-pull leg split where it's only a third of the time. Therefore, you're training your lower body more frequently, increasing the volume to that area. That's why choosing a split based on your goals is extremely important. Lastly, with frequency, you want to have at least 1 rest day per week, just to make sure that you're able to recover. Because even with 1 rest day, if your volume's too high, you're still not going to be able to properly recover. What happens when you don't properly recover? Lack of progression. What is progression? It's gradually increasing the main vectors, which are reps, sets, and resistance. If you've not got a challenge, you're not going to change. You want to focus on improving only 1 or 2 of these vectors at a time, because otherwise you don't know if you're actually getting stronger. It's the basis of the scientific principle. Only changing 1 variable at a time. Small steady steps also help to prevent against burnout. If you're aiming too high too quickly, you're just going to fall flat on your face. Progress is patience plus consistency. In order to progress through resistance, that's why it's extremely important to track where you are in your rep range, so you can know whether you need to up the weight or not, whether you need to up the resistance or not. Using the number of sets as a form of progression is a lot more complicated and more down to how fast you recover, because you're going to be adding more volume, but you don't want to add too much that you're not recovering, like we've just covered before. You want to find the most optimal amount of sets you can perform within the workout. Another way to progress is reducing the amount of rest time. If your goal is overall fitness or muscle endurance, so say if you're a fighter, reducing the rest time might be preferable for you, because it's a good indicator of overall health, cardiovascular as well as muscular. However, it wouldn't be optimal for say a powerlifter. Also to note, progression isn't just about the metrics you achieve, it's about how you achieve them. So improving technique, as well as improving the control. So controlling the eccentric, helping to prevent against injury, as well as maximizing for hypertrophy. Now progression over time isn't going to be exponential. If you're following a good program, you'll make lots of gains quickly and then it will slowly start to taper off. This is the natural course of action. There's just no way around it, naturally anyway. The next principle is exercise selection, where you want to be choosing the exercises that best fit your goal. You see how high it is on the pyramid, except it's 99% of fitness content. It's, oh, do this exercise or do that. Obviously it's important, but if you're comparing the importance of exercise selection to adherence, there's no comparison. It's far more important that you adhere to being able to go and step foot in the gym than whether you're doing incline bench or chest press. The main forms of exercises are bodyweight, cable, free weights, and machines. So why bodyweight exercise is good? Simple. You need next to no equipment. However, the problem arises with progressing. How are you going to progress the weight? Sure, you can add a weighted vest or using a chain to add extra weights on pull-ups. However, it's also more difficult to track with fluctuating body weight. If you're 60 kg and you can do 10 pull-ups, and then you go to 90 kg and you can only do 9, it might seem like you got weaker, but because your body weight is increased so rapidly, it seems like you've actually got stronger because you have to lift a higher weight. So why are cables good? You can hit the muscles from very specific angles. You can adjust to your own height, whereas the machines are usually in a more fixed position, which usually isn't that much of a problem with height because you can change the seat height, but with limb length it is. The free weights can't be optimized for everyone's very specific limb length, whereas the cables, it's better to be able to fit for your own needs. Because you can adjust the height of the cables, you're adjusting the angle the resistance is working against your muscle. Whereas with free weights, gravity is always going to be a limit, because the resistance which comes from gravity only comes in one direction, that's down. If you adjust the cable, it can come from whichever direction you want, which helps in certain exercises to provide resistance throughout the full range of motion of the exercise. Those are the main differences between the different categories. But beyond that, pick the ones that you enjoy the most. As well, that goes back to adherence. Select the exercises you enjoy doing. If you enjoy doing machine lateral raises, for example, because of the increased stability of sitting down, and it helps to isolate the muscles better, then you do that. Or, if you prefer using the cables to do lateral raises, then that's completely fine. Whichever you prefer, and which causes less joint strain, then do that one. With exercise selection, it's not just about the exercises you do, but when you do them. So prioritizing the most important exercises for you first in the workout, and then slowly go into the least important. So say, if your main priority is to build bigger arms, then doing biceps first on a pull day is completely fine, although it is going to limit your back gains. Likewise, if your back is lagging behind your biceps, then train your back first, as well with programming which exercises come first, and then second, and then third. Take into account which muscle groups you're going to be doing back to back, because while you're working one muscle, another can recover. If you want to give your chest your all on, say, chest press or bench, then don't do a bunch of tricep exercises directly beforehand, which is going to then limit your chest growth. Give a bit of rest in between if you have enough time. Focus on, say, shoulders, and put those in the middle, where it's not going to limit either, unless you're going heavy on front delt, of course, which then it's going to limit your pushing movements. Less important than exercise selection is rest periods. Rest periods is the time taken between sets to recover energy and prepare for your next set. Proper rest periods help maintain strength, technique, and overall workout quality throughout. Too little rest reduces performance, whereas too much rest wastes time. If your main goal is strength and you're working in the lower rep ranges, then it's okay to have more rest time because you're going to need it for your nervous system to be able to recover between sets. So even going for 2 to 5 minutes, if you're doing a heavy compound lift, that's fine. Unless it's peak time at the gym and you take up the bench for 45 minutes, in which case everyone wants to kill you. However, for hypertrophy, you can afford to have a slightly shorter rest period, which helps balance recovery from fatigue, but also making sure you can get enough volume within the workout. If your main goal is endurance, whether it be cardiovascular or muscular, you could even be going for 30 or 60-second rest periods in between. This will help build stamina. Next up we have tempo, which is the pace of each phase of the lift. We have the concentric, which is the pulling or pulling movements itself. So say, if you're on a bench press, it's the pushing up, or if you're on a pull-up, that's you pulling yourself up. Separating the concentric from the eccentric, you might want a pause in between, which helps prevent against injury. And then finally, we have the eccentric, which is the lowering phase of the movement. So again, going back to the bench, it's when you're lowering the bar after pushing it up, or if you're on a pull-up, it's when you're lowering yourself after pulling yourself up. The way to remember it, concentric, think you're contracting the muscles. Tempo controls the time under tension, so the amount of time that the muscle is exposed to the resistance. It also improves muscle control, so it helps with the mind-muscle connection, as well as keeping proper form. It also helps to standardize your sets, which people don't talk about enough. If you want to track your progress, standardizing your sets, so say by having a targeted time for your eccentric, so the lowering of say 2 seconds, helps to make sure that you are actually getting stronger from workout to workout. And you're not just reducing the time the eccentric takes to just get the weight up by any means necessary. It helps to standardize your sets. Finally, it also helps to reduce your injury risk. If you're actually controlling the weight on the way down, it helps to reduce the risk of muscle tears when you are pushing the weight all the way up. For the eccentric of most movements, I'd recommend around 2 seconds, but if you are struggling to feel the mind-muscle connection on an exercise, try upping it to 3 and seeing how that works best for you. Next up we have periodization, which takes all of the factors we've discussed and organizing your training into different phases. This helps optimize progress, performance, and recovery for your long-term goals. It helps to prevent against plateaus, overtraining, and boredom by varying the different factors, such as volume, intensity, and exercise selection, which helps you focus more between those weeks and months. Common examples of different training phases would be a hypertrophy phase and a strength phase. Sure, you could go between the two, so say 8 to 12 rep range, like that sort of idea, where you're not optimizing for one over the other. But if you want to help optimize your hypertrophy during certain parts of the year and your strength during others, then having those as very specific training phases will help with that. You can't do everything at once. Pick something to focus on and fully give your all to it, whether it be hypertrophy, strength, endurance. Obviously, having a plan where you encompass as many of your goals as you can is best. But what's not best and what's not optimal is trying to chuck everything into one workout. It's just not sustainable. It's just going to lead to burnout. So as long as one of your goals isn't suffering too much by focusing on another, then it is best to prioritize certain goals over others during certain phases of time. These training phases are typically separated by deload week, where you train lighter and not as intensely in order to be able to recover while still maintaining your strength and gains. It also helps to give your nervous system a reset, especially if you've been going extremely heavy during your strength phase, or you've been working extremely hard with high volumes in your hypertrophy phase. So what are the key takeaways? Effective programming starts with a clear purpose and realistic goals. Consistency and gradual progression matter more than perfection. And finally, the best program is the best one that you can follow, recover from, and keep improving over time. If you want a more optimal program, which best suits your needs and your adherence, or if you just want someone to help guide you through the process, go to excalibuремpower.com to lift your limits and forge your future.